Welcome to the deep dive. Ready to explore some seriously big questions? We're diving into My Big Toey by Tom Campbell. It's a book about consciousness and reality, and, well, what it all means.
Yeah, my big Toey, it's fascinating how Campbell approaches this. He doesn't get all like super complicated right off the bat, no fancy theories or equations. He just lays it out in a really simple way.
Mhm.
Minimizes assumptions and focuses on this thing he calls the fundamental process.
The fundamental process, that's about evolution, right?
Yeah.
But I get the sense that Campbell's talking about something way beyond like Darwin and finches.
Exactly. He's saying this evolutionary drive, it's not just for like biological systems, it applies to consciousness itself, always striving for greater profitability, efficiency. It's like this cosmic push. Everything wants to be more organized, more complex.
So how does Campbell's personal story tie into all of this? I mean, the excerpts mention out-body experiences
Hmm.
and working with the Monroe Institute. That's not exactly your typical scientific background, is it?
True. Campbell started out pretty skeptical, actually, a real science guy. But then his own experiences with altered states of consciousness, especially at the Monroe Institute, they really kind of shook things up for him.
Wow. So it's like he had these firsthand encounters with the non-physical.
It seems that way, yeah. He came to believe that a purely scientific materialist view, it wasn't the whole picture.
Yeah.
Something was missing.
Right, right. It makes you wonder if sometimes the most profound insights, they come from those experiences that totally challenge our worldview.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a key theme in my big Toei. Campbell keeps saying understanding reality, it's not just about intellectual knowledge, it's personal growth, too, expanding consciousness itself.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we expand our consciousness?
Well, Campbell even defines a real experience as one that leads to consistent, measurable functionality for anyone. So it's not just a subjective feeling, but about objective results.
Hmm. That's an interesting way to define real. So it's like subjective experience and objective functionality are kind of woven together.
Yeah.
Okay, but how does Campbell go from these personal experiences to a whole theory of everything? The excerpts mention this absolute unbounded oneness.
Right.
What is that, and how does it fit into this big TOE?
Okay, so imagine like this vast energy, unstructured potential, kind of like a single cell before it divides. That's absolute unbounded oneness, or AUO for short. It's the starting point, the raw material for everything, all of reality.
Okay, that's a bold concept.
Yeah.
Everything coming from this one undifferentiated source. But how does something so simple create all this complexity we experience?
Well, that's where the fundamental process comes in again. Campbell says this drive, this urge towards greater profitability, it's inherent in AUO. It pushes this oneness to become more complex, to differentiate. He compares it to single-celled organisms evolving into like multi-celled organisms,
Yeah.
specialized functions.
Okay, I was starting to get it. So we have this absolute unbounded oneness, this drive toward complexity. And then Campbell also mentions a more advanced consciousness, right, called AUM.
Yes.
What's the connection between AUO and AUM?
Think of AUM as what happens when consciousness becomes self-aware, but on a cosmic scale. From AUO, Campbell says AUM is like the architect of reality, the force that creates and organizes everything, even time.
Wait, time. So time isn't a fundamental property of the universe. It's something AUM created.
That's what Campbell suggests. And it leads to some pretty wild implications. He actually says there are multiple levels of time operating at different scales. He compares it to humans watching bacteria, in a petri dish. We're operating on completely different timescales within AUM's larger system.
So we're like bacteria to AUM, moving through life, and AUM barely notices.
Yeah, kind of. It's like we're just a tiny part of this much bigger thing.
But if that's the case, does that mean we don't have free will? Are our choices, our actions, even our thoughts, are they already, like, predetermined?
That's the big question. And my big Toey really gets into it. Campbell says, yeah, we're in a larger system, but we're not, puppets. Free will is important. Our choices, they actually influence our reality.
That's good to hear. So we're not just along for the ride.
Logical.
Okay, good. But if our individual consciousness is just a part of AUM, and we're basically in a virtual reality designed for growth, what does that even mean about reality itself? What is real in this model?
This is where things get really, really mind-bending. Campbell's main argument is that there's no no matter as we normally think of it. Everything is mind. What we see as physical is just an experience of consciousness within this virtual reality, this space-time thing.
Hold on. So the world as we know it, trees, buildings, even our bodies, they're just projections of consciousness.
That's what he's saying.
It's like we're living in a giant dream.
It's a radical concept, right? It makes you question how we perceive the world
Right.
and where we fit in. Campbell's challenging us to think about how our own consciousness, our own interpretation, shapes how we experience reality.
Right. Okay. That's a lot to wrap my head around. So we've got this fundamental process, this idea that reality is all mind. And then there's this concept of ego that keeps popping up. What role does ego play in Campbell's model?
Campbell sees the ego as a construct built on fear, the need to feel important, secure in this limited reality we perceive. He says letting go of fear, developing humility, those are key to expanding consciousness and increasing our capacity for love.
So the ego it's like this little voice in our heads. It's constantly, be careful, protect yourself, don't take any risks.
Yeah.
Even if that means staying small, disconnected.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And Campbell contrasts this ego-driven fear with this boundless love and compassion, which he says is AUM. So as we let go of fear and ego, we become more aligned with this larger consciousness, this force of love that seems to be at the heart of everything.
This is all fascinating, really mind-blowing. I mean, it's a bit abstract, right? Does Campbell actually give us any practical advice on how to apply these ideas? Like, how do we actually quiet the ego, let go of fear, expand our consciousness?
Well, the excerpts do talk about some practical stuff, especially mantra meditation. Campbell really emphasizes quieting the intellect and experiencing consciousness directly. And he thinks mantra meditation is a good way to do that.
So instead of all that mental chatter, we're shifting to a deeper awareness of what's beneath the surface.
Right.
I'm curious to hear more about this type of meditation. How is it different?
It's definitely worth exploring. Campbell's approach, it's less about completely emptying your mind. It's more about shifting your attention to a subtler level of awareness.
Okay.
And it's not just about, feeling peaceful. It's a tool for actively exploring consciousness, pushing the boundaries of our perception.
So we're exploring our consciousness,
Yeah.
letting go of fear and ego,
Yeah.
maybe even using mantra meditation. But what's the goal? What are we working towards here?
That's a great question. And it leads us to the core of what Campbell's proposing. He says, the ultimate goal is to increase our capacity for love.
Love. Wait, really? That seems pretty radical. How does he even define love in this context? Is it just about, feeling good, having positive emotions?
It's more than that. Campbell sees love as the natural expression of a low entropy consciousness, a high quality consciousness. It's a state of being. It comes from a deep sense of connection, compassion, understanding. And he says this love, this interconnectedness, it's not just a human ideal, it's a fundamental force. It drives the evolution of consciousness.
Right.
Everywhere.
Well, hold on. So he's saying love isn't just a feeling, but a cosmic principle.
Yeah.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is, and it changes how we think about ourselves, our place in the universe. It suggests we're not just, random accidents. We're part of a grand cosmic plan unfolding towards greater love, unity, harmony. And the more we evolve, the more we let go of fear, of ego, the more we become aligned with this principle of love, and we contribute to this cosmic evolution.
This is seriously blowing my mind. The idea that reality is consciousness, and that love is the driving force behind it all. It's challenging everything I thought I knew. But before we go too deep into these big ideas, I want to know more about the practical side. What does Campbell recommend we actually do to expand our consciousness, to embody this love in our daily lives?
That's a great question, and it leads us into some really interesting territory. Campbell talks about all sorts of things, practices and approaches for cultivating a more evolved consciousness, like meditation, mindfulness, exploring altered states of consciousness. He even delves into the possibility of accessing alternate realities.
Alternate realities.
Yeah.
That sounds like science fiction. Tell me more about that.
It is a wild concept, but the way Campbell presents it, it's grounded. It's almost scientific. He says our consciousness can access these alternate realities through things like out-of-body experiences, lucid dreaming, and other ways of expanding awareness. And he says these realities are full of conscious entities just like us, each one exploring different possibilities, potentialities.
So are these alternate realities like parallel universes,
Hmm.
different timelines.
Not necessarily. Campbell describes them more like alternate systems of reality,
Yeah.
each one operating with its own rules, its own constraints,
Yeah.
kind of like different levels of a video game, each with its own challenges, its own opportunities for growth.
Yeah.
And he says by exploring these alternate realities, we can learn a lot about consciousness, about the infinite possibilities of existence.
This is really making me rethink everything. It's like the world is so much bigger, more complex, more mysterious than I ever
I
imagined.
know, it's exciting, isn't it?
It is. It's a lot to take in. But before we dive too deep into alternate realities, let's go back to something we mentioned earlier. The concept of TBC. What does that stand for? How does it fit into all of this?
Good point. TBC stands for the bigger consciousness. And it's kind of like the operating system for this non-physical reality that Campbell describes. He says it's a huge database, contains all possible realities, probabilities. It's where our consciousness interacts with the larger system and where our choices, our intentions, they shape the reality we experience.
So TBC is like a cosmic library,
Yeah.
where we can access information about anything, or is it more like a control panel where we can actually
Like,
influence things?
it's probably a bit of both. Campbell suggests we can access information from TBC through our intuition, through dreams, through altered states. It's like tapping into a universal source of knowledge, wisdom.
Hmm.
But he also says we're not, just passive observers. We have free will. Our choices matter. We're co-creators, interacting with TBC to shape our experiences.
Okay, let me see if I understand this. Our physical world, it's kind of like a virtual reality running inside this larger system of consciousness, this TBC.
Mm-hmm.
And our choices, our intentions, they're constantly shaping the reality we're experiencing.
You got it.
Okay? And this brings us to another concept that Campbell introduces, this idea of digital consciousness. What does that even mean?
Yeah, he says our consciousness is, at its core, a form of information, a pattern of energy interacting with this larger system, this cosmic computer, if you will.
Digital consciousness.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're like characters in a giant video game. So our bodies are avatars,
Mhm.
and our experiences are just being generated by this cosmic computer. What does that mean for things like identity, free will, even the possibility of life after death?
Those are some big questions. And Campbell's model really makes you think about them. It's like he's opening up a whole new way of understanding reality, one that challenges everything we thought we knew. And opens up a world of possibilities. So before we got sidetracked by all the implications of digital consciousness, we were talking about how Campbell suggests some concrete practices for exploring consciousness and actually putting these ideas into action.
Yeah, that's what I'm really interested in. What are some specific techniques he recommends for expanding our awareness, for tapping into this greater reality?
Well, he's a big advocate for meditation, but his approach is kind of unique. Remember we were talking about mantra meditation earlier.
Yeah.
Campbell sees it as more than just a way to relax or quiet the mind. He sees it as a tool for actively exploring consciousness itself.
Okay, so it's not just about emptying the mind.
Yeah.
It's about shifting our focus to a deeper level of awareness. But how does that actually work in practice?
So he recommends using a simple mantra, a sound, with no particular meaning, and you focus on it. By repeating this sound, you can gradually quiet down that internal dialogue and create space for a more subtle awareness to emerge. It's like tuning out all the noise of the world so you can hear a quieter frequency, the hum of consciousness itself.
I've tried meditating before, but I always get distracted. My mind just won't be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Does Campbell address this? I mean, it seems like a pretty common
Oh, yes.
problem.
Oh, yeah, he does. He knows the mind's a busy place. Distractions happen. The key, he says, is to not get frustrated. When your mind wanders, just gently bring your attention back to the mantra without judgment. It's like training a puppy. Patience, persistence.
So it's more about developing a kind of a gentle awareness of our own mental processes, not about forcing our minds to do something they don't want to do. I like that. It seems more sustainable,
Right.
less intimidating.
Exactly. And as you practice this, Campbell suggests that you might start to notice shifts in your perception, a deeper sense of connection to something larger than yourself. He even says that with practice, you can access information from TBC, that database of all possibilities we were discussing earlier.
Wait, really? So through meditation, we can potentially tap into this vast reservoir of of knowledge and wisdom. That sounds almost too good to be true.
It might sound far-fetched, but Campbell's got his own experiences to back it up, and the experiences of a lot of other people who have explored these practices. And remember, he's not saying we passively receive information from TPC. He emphasizes that we have free will, that our choices shape the reality we experience.
Okay, so we're not just like downloading information. We're actively participating.
Yeah.
It's a dynamic process of co-creation
Yeah.
with this larger consciousness. But what about those alternate realities? Where do they fit into all of this?
Campbell says that as we evolve our consciousness, we become capable of accessing those realities, of exploring them. He describes them as different systems of reality, each with its own set of rules, constraints. And he says these realities are populated by conscious entities, just like us, exploring all sorts of possibilities, potentialities.
So it's like there's this whole multiverse of consciousness out there, and we have the potential to tap into it. But how do we actually access these alternate realities?
Campbell suggests that things like out-of-body exploration, lucid dreaming, they can be pathways into these realms, and he emphasizes intention, focus. The more we can refine our awareness, direct our intention, the more likely we are to break through the limits of our normal perception.
Okay, so there's a real emphasis on personal responsibility here.
Yeah.
We're not just passive recipients of whatever reality throws our way.
Right.
We have the power to choose, to explore, to actively shape our experience.
Yeah, exactly. Campbell's message is all about empowerment. He's saying you're not just a victim of your circumstances, your past conditioning. You have the power to choose a different path, a path that leads to greater freedom, joy, fulfillment.
But Campbell also acknowledges that there are limits to our power, right? You mentioned something earlier called the psi uncertainty principle. What was that again, and how does it fit into this?
Right. The psi uncertainty principle, it's Campbell's way of explaining why we don't see more paranormal stuff in our everyday lives. He says there are limits to how much we can, directly influence physical reality with our thoughts, intentions. He compares it to playing a video game with cheat codes. If you had unlimited power to manipulate the game, it would ruin the challenge, and it would take away from the learning experience.
So these limits are actually in place to kind of protect the integrity of the learning environment that our physical reality provides. It's like training wheels on a bicycle.
Right, exactly. And Campbell suggests that as we evolve, we gradually get more access to these psi abilities. But it's a process. It unfolds over time as we develop the wisdom to use them responsibly.
Makes sense. So there's a natural order to this development, like a cosmic curriculum guiding our growth. Okay, but if everything is consciousness and we're all interconnected, how does Campbell explain the differences in awareness and understanding that we see? I mean, why are some people so enlightened while others seem stuck in these cycles of fear and suffering?
That's a great question, and it gets to one of the core ideas in my Big TOE, entropy. Remember how we were talking about low entropy and high entropy consciousness earlier? Campbell uses entropy as a metaphor for the level of disorder or fragmentation within our consciousness.
So high entropy is like fear, ego, separation, and low entropy is love, connection, unity.
Exactly. And he argues that the evolution of consciousness, it's all about moving from high entropy to low entropy, integrating the fragmented parts, healing, becoming whole, complete. The lower our entropy, the greater our capacity for love, for compassion, for wisdom.
Okay. So it's like we're refining our consciousness, aligning ourselves more with this love that seems to be at the heart of everything. But what about those who seem really stuck in these patterns of fear and negativity? Is there any hope for them to evolve?
Campbell's message is one of hope, possibility for everyone. He says even those who seem trapped in suffering, they're still on a path of evolution, even if it's slow or maybe a little erratic. He emphasizes that we all have free will.
Yeah.
That at any moment we can choose to shift our perspective, to choose love over fear, to embark on a path of growth and fulfillment.
That's good to hear. It's reassuring to know that even with all the suffering in the world, there's this underlying current of evolution pulling us all toward greater love and unity. But this whole idea of entropy and consciousness, it raises another question for me. If love is low entropy and fear is high entropy, doesn't that mean that the universe is inherently biased
Hmm.
towards love?
That's a fascinating question, and it really gets to the heart of what Campbell is proposing. He suggests that love, cooperation, a sense of unity, they're not just, morally superior. They're more aligned with the fundamental principles of consciousness itself.
So he's saying that love isn't just a nice idea. It's actually the most efficient way for consciousness to operate.
That's the radical idea in My Big Toe. It challenges this whole idea that selfishness, competition, those are the driving forces of evolution. Campbell suggests that love is more than a feeling. It's a fundamental force that shakes reality itself.
Wow. So he's saying that the universe is literally built on love. But how does that translate to our everyday lives? What can we do to tap into this force and contribute to this cosmic evolution of consciousness?
Campbell says it's not enough to just understand these concepts, intellectually. We need to embody them in our actions, relationships, interactions. He says every choice we make, every thought, every action, it contributes to the overall entropy of the system.
So it's not just about like meditating on love or thinking positive thoughts. It's about aligning our actions with this principle of love, making choices that reflect a deeper understanding of our interconnectedness.
Exactly. Campbell encourages us to practice kindness, compassion in our daily lives, to forgive ourselves and others, to let go of grudges, and to extend love even to those who have, hurt us.
So he's advocating for a radical shift in how we are in the world, moving away from this ego-driven pursuit of self-interest toward a more heart-centered approach to life.
That's a great way to put it. Campbell is calling for a revolution of consciousness, a shift in how we understand ourselves, what's possible. And he says it starts by recognizing our interconnectedness, letting go of fear, ego, embracing the power of love to transform ourselves and the world.
It's a beautiful vision,
Yeah.
but it also feels kind of daunting, doesn't it? We're up against so much that seems to reinforce separation,
Yeah.
fear, competition. How do we even begin to shift the tide toward greater love, compassion, unity?
Campbell says the change has to start within each of us. He emphasizes that we're not helpless. We're not just victims. We are conscious creators. We have the power to choose our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions. He encourages us to take responsibility for our own evolution, to cultivate the qualities that we want to see in the world, to become living examples of the love, compassion, and wisdom that we long for.
So it's about being the change we want to see.
Right.
It's about recognizing that our individual choices, even the small ones, they matter.
Yeah.
That they contribute to this collective energy, and that they can inspire others to choose love over fear.
Exactly. Campbell says as more and more people wake up, awaken to their true nature as conscious creators and choose to align their actions with love, we create a powerful force for positive change that can transform the world. He says even with all the challenges we face, we have the power to choose a different path, to create a brighter future for ourselves and for generations to come.
That's really inspiring. It gives me a new sense of hope, of optimism. It's like seeing the world through a different lens, one that shows the interconnectedness and the potential for love, for growth that exists within us all. But I want to explore more of the practical implications of Campbell's work. Does he offer any specific guidance on how we can embody these principles in our daily lives?
He does, and one of the key things he talks about is humility.
Humility. That's not a word you hear a lot these days, especially in a culture that often celebrates, ambition, self-promotion,
Yeah.
achievement. Why does Campbell focus on humility?
Campbell sees humility as the antidote to ego attachment. It's about recognizing that we are not the center of the universe, that we are part of something much, much larger. And this understanding, he says, opens us up to a deeper understanding of reality and a greater capacity for love and compassion.
So it's not about putting ourselves down
No.
or denying our accomplishments. It's about acknowledging our interconnectedness.
Yeah.
Recognizing that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. Humility is about understanding that our achievements, they're not just our own, they're a reflection of the support we've received from others, the opportunities we've been given, the countless unseen forces that have shaped our lives.
It's like recognizing that we're all threads in the tapestry of life, and the beauty of the tapestry depends on the integrity, the harmony of each individual thread, not on any one thread claiming to be superior or dominant.
That's a beautiful analogy, and it highlights that humility isn't about weakness. It's not about about subservience, it's about recognizing our place
Hmm.
in the larger scheme of things and acting in ways that benefit the whole, not just ourselves.
It's about understanding that true strength lies not in dominating others, but in serving a greater good, contributing to the well-being of all.
Exactly. And Campbell suggests that as we develop humility, we naturally become more compassionate, more understanding, more willing to cooperate for the benefit of all.
It's like humility is the fertile soil
Yes.
from which love and compassion can grow. But if humility is so important, how do we actually cultivate it? It seems like such a subtle quality, one that's often overshadowed by our ego's desire for recognition, validation.
Kimball suggests that humility arises naturally as we deepen our understanding of our interconnectedness, the vastness of reality. He encourages us to engage in practices that expand our awareness and connect us to something larger than ourselves, whether it's through meditation, spending time in nature, or just cultivating a sense of awe and wonder at the mystery of life.
So it's about shifting our perspective from this narrow, ego-driven worldview to a more expansive view, one that recognizes that everything is connected.
Exactly. As we expand our awareness, we naturally begin to see ourselves as part of a larger whole, and this understanding fosters humility and a sense of reverence for all of life.
It's like zooming out,
Mhm.
from a close-up view of a single tree to a wide-angle shot that shows the whole forest with all its intricate connections.
That's a great analogy. And as we grasp this interconnectedness, we realize that our well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of all other beings and the planet. And this understanding naturally fosters humility
Right.
and a desire to live in harmony with the larger web of life.
This whole discussion is really resonating with me. It's making me realize that my own happiness, my own fulfillment, they're not separate from the happiness and fulfillment of others. We're all in this together.
That's a profound realization, and it's at the heart of Campbell's message. He's calling for a revolution of consciousness, a shift from this ego-driven pursuit of self-interest to a more heart-centered way of being that recognizes our interconnectedness and prioritizes the well-being of all.
It's a beautiful vision, but it also feels daunting. We're up against so much in the world that seems to reinforce, separation, fear, competition. How do we even begin to shift the tide toward greater love, compassion, unity?
Campbell suggests that the change begins within each of us. He says we're not helpless victims, but we are conscious creators with the power to choose our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions. He encourages us to take responsibility for our own evolution, to cultivate the qualities we wish to see in the world, to become living examples of the love, the compassion, the wisdom that we long for.
So it's about being the change. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing that our individual choices, even the small ones, they matter. They contribute to the collective energy of the planet. And they have the power to ripple outwards, inspiring others to choose love over fear.
Exactly. Campbell says, as more and more individuals awaken to their true nature as conscious creators and choose to align their actions with love, we create a powerful force for positive change that can transform the world. He reminds us that even in the face of seemingly overwhelming challenges, we have the power to choose a different path, to create a brighter future for ourselves and for generations to come.
That's an inspiring message. It fills me with a renewed sense of hope, of optimism. It's like seeing the world through a different lens, one that reveals the underlying interconnectedness and the potential for love and growth. That exists within us all, but I'm curious to explore more the practical implications of Campbell's work. Does he offer any specific guidance on how we can embody these principles of love, compassion, and wisdom in our daily lives?
He does, and one of the key practices he recommends is to cultivate a regular practice of gratitude.
Gratitude seems like such a simple concept. How can something as simple as feeling grateful actually contribute to our consciousness evolution?
Campbell suggests that gratitude is a powerful force for shifting our perspective and
Yeah.
aligning ourselves with the positive aspects of reality. When we focus on what we're grateful for, we naturally cultivate a sense of abundance, joy, appreciation for the gifts that life has to offer.
So it's about training our minds to focus on the good rather than dwelling on the negative or taking things for granted.
Exactly. And Campbell emphasizes that gratitude is not about about denying the challenges or the difficulties we face. It's about choosing to focus on the positive aspects of our experience, even amidst adversity.
It's like shifting our attention from the weeds in the garden to the beautiful flowers that are blooming, even if those flowers are surrounded by thorns.
That's a great analogy. And as we cultivate this practice of gratitude, we naturally begin to experience more joy, more peace, a deeper sense of connection to the source of all good.
You know, one thing that I keep coming back to, it's how Campbell blends these mystical ideas with a scientific framework. It's like he's not afraid to get into the nuts and bolts of how reality works.
Yeah, that's what makes my big Toei so interesting, right? He's not just laying out a philosophy or a set of beliefs. It's like he's building a model of reality that includes both the subjective experience of consciousness and the objective principles of science.
Right. Like he even uses the analogy of a computer simulation to explain how reality is put together.
Exactly. And it's a powerful analogy. It helps make these really complex ideas, well, a little easier to grasp. He talks about the big computer, which is like the hardware, and AUM, the evolved consciousness, as the programmer, the operator. He even introduces this idea of digital consciousness, saying our consciousness is at its core information, a pattern of energy interacting with this larger system.
So are we like characters in a video game? Our bodies are avatars, and all our experiences are just being generated by the software of this cosmic computer. It's a pretty wild thought.
It is wild, and it brings up all sorts of questions, right?
Yeah.
About reality, about what we can perceive, and what might be possible beyond our everyday experience.
Okay, but if we're in a simulation, does that mean we don't have free will? Are our choices, are they already decided by the program?
That's a common question. But Campbell says no, our free will, it operates within the simulation. We can make choices, but those choices are limited by the rules of the game, so to speak.
Okay, so we're playing by a set of rules, but we still have the freedom to choose our strategies, our actions.
Right, and our choices have consequences. They influence the reality we experience, and they shape our evolution. Campbell's clear that we're not just passive players here. We're active. We're co-creators of our experience and the world around us.
Okay, so that's empowering. It means we're not just puppets of fate. We have agency. Our choices actually matter. But it also suggests a level of responsibility, right? If we're co-creating reality, we need to be aware of the choices we're making and how those choices affect ourselves and others.
Yeah, that's a big part of Campbell's message. He's constantly reminding us that our choices, they have these ripple effects. They go way beyond our immediate circle. We're all connected. And our actions, they impact the whole web of consciousness.
It's like we're all playing in an orchestra, each of us with a unique instrument. And the music we make, it depends on everyone's skill and our ability to listen to each other and to harmonize.
I like that. It really highlights the importance of cooperation, harmony, and recognizing that we're all connected. And it shows that our individual choices, they contribute to the whole symphony of creation.
Speaking of interconnectedness, Campbell's work really challenges the materialistic view, the idea that we're all separate. He seems to be saying that we are all connected, that we're all part of a larger web of consciousness.
Yes, definitely. Campbell argues that this interconnectedness, it's not just some mystical idea. It's based on how consciousness works at its most fundamental level. He says that we're all fragments of the same source, that the same universal consciousness. And this connection, it underlies our ability to communicate, to empathize, to experience love.
So we're like branches on the same tree, each one expressing something unique, but all coming from the same source.
Exactly. That's a perfect analogy. And Campbell says that recognizing this interconnectedness, it's crucial for our own evolution and for creating a more harmonious world. He wants us to see past the illusion of separation and embrace the reality of our shared existence.
That's a powerful message, especially in a world that feels so divided. It's a reminder that we're not alone, that we're all part of something bigger.
Right. And that realization, it can be both humbling and inspiring. It humbles us by reminding us that we're not the center of everything. But it also inspires us by showing the incredible potential for connection, cooperation, collective evolution.
So if we're all connected and consciousness is fundamental to reality,
Right.
What does that mean for how we understand the universe? Does he address the big questions that science has been trying to answer, like the origin of the universe, the nature of dark matter and dark energy, the
Yeah.
possibility of life on other planets?
He does. He touches on those questions, and he suggests that consciousness might actually be the key to understanding some of these big mysteries that have baffled scientists for so long. If consciousness is the ground of being, like Campbell proposes, then it could be a unifying framework for understanding not just the physical universe, but also the realm of mind and experience.
So it's like we've been looking at the universe through a narrow lens, focusing only on the physical. And Campbell is saying, hey, open up to a wider view. Consider that consciousness might be the primary force, the force that's shaping the universe.
Yeah, it's a big shift in perspective, and
Mhm.
it has the potential to change not just science, but also how we understand ourselves, our place in the cosmos, and the infinite possibilities that await us as we evolve our consciousness.
It's really amazing to think that something as simple as changing our focus, cultivating, love and humility, practicing gratitude, that these things could have such a profound impact, not just on our own lives, but on the evolution of consciousness itself.
That's the beauty of Campbell's work. It's not just a theory. It's a call to action. He's reminding us that we're not just watching this grand cosmic experiment. We're participating in it. We are co-creators. And the choices we make, individually and collectively, they shape the course of our evolution.
It's a message of empowerment
Yeah.
and responsibility. It's like he's saying, okay, you see the bigger picture. Now it's time to step up and play your part.
Exactly. And he gives us the tools, he guides us
Yeah.
through practices like meditation, self-reflection, conscious choice making. We can actively participate in our own evolution and contribute to the evolution of consciousness itself.
It's like we're all artists,
Hmm.
and the world is our canvas. We have the power to create a masterpiece, but it takes effort, intention, a deep understanding of how creation works. And maybe as we get better at it, as we become more skilled, we'll start to see those seemingly impossible things, the psi phenomena showing up in our everyday lives.
That would be something, wouldn't it? It would definitely challenge our understanding of what's possible and open up a whole new realm of exploration and discovery.
It's exciting to think about. But for now, I think we've covered a lot in this deep dive into My Big Toey. What's the one thing you hope our listener takes away from this exploration, from Tom Campbell's work?
If I had to pick just one, I'd say remember this. You're not just a physical being having a temporary experience in a random universe. You're a conscious entity. You have the power to shape your reality, to contribute to the evolution of consciousness itself. Embrace that power, explore, and create a world that reflects your highest aspirations.
That's a powerful message. Thank you for guiding us through this incredible journey into the world of My Big Toey.
The pleasure was all mine. And remember, this is just the beginning. The real adventure starts now.
And to our listener, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep evolving. We'll see you on the next deep dive.